Hi everyone, I'm ABC2 meteorologist Mike Masco. It's Wednesday afternoon, thank goodness. And there's going to be a few issues that we're going to have with these forecast models going forward. There's a couple of events on the boards, at least for the next 3 days, that are going to be small events. And then we're going to really kind of focus and fine-tune the forecast as we go into the end of this month and early February, which really screams the idea of some pretty big storms. And you look back at history, you look back at the 96 season, you look back at 09, you look back into the 80s, you do find a pattern that is expected to evolve where deep troughs going to be over the East Coast. You're going to get blocking on both the Pacific and Atlantic sides of the oceans, and that's going to allow for a jet stream to really enhance and develop along the East Coast, allowing for storms to form and move up the coast. I guess the only wild card out of all of this going forward is going to be the North Atlantic Oscillation, whether we can kind of slow down the jet stream along the East Coast and allow for these storms to pop and really develop and mature into big East Coast events. That's going to be the question we have to answer over the next 5 to 10 days. But what I do know is it's going to get wicked cold across much of the East Coast and Mid-Atlantic, and this is the type of cold that's not going to be centered over the northern plains this go-around. It might be centered over the lakes and even into interior New England, where overnight lows could be around -10, -15 degrees, daytime highs around 1 or 2 degrees, and maybe never getting there out near the Berkshires and Green and White Mountains, spending your days well below zero with a wind chill of around -50 degrees. So this is going to be some wild cold, fantastic cold as we go into the end of this month and into February. And a big shout out to Weather Center blog. It's spelled CENTRE. They did a great blog about stratospheric warming, how it impacts the lower 48, and how it's going to bring the cold across much of the East Coast. And you're going to hear on the media, once again, polar vortex. And this is nothing new, but a little bit of a sensational, sexy feel from the media will mention polar vortex or the dawning of a new polar vortex. This is going to be another polar vortex situation going forward. All right, let's talk about the short term, what's going to go down with some light snow. Northern Virginia, you're going to see a little light snow tonight, especially Roanoke. We're kind of fine-tuning that forecast. And then as we get up towards Baltimore, Philadelphia, it's going to be a little bit challenging. And we'll get into the cold and talk more about that coming up in a second. All right, let's start out with the dense fog. That was an issue this morning across much of Maryland, southern New Jersey, central Pennsylvania, and northern Virginia. And we still have dense fog advisories for Baltimore, and that includes Harford County, northern Baltimore County. This is going to be up until 2 o'clock, so visibility is still around 1/4 of a mile in most spots, especially along the Bayfront. All the advisories have been discontinued into Philadelphia and D.C. from the overnight hours. And there was some real crazy fog going on down across D.C. and Columbia, back down towards Gaithersburg. It was zero visibility. I mean, it was some pea soup type fog going down last night. So that's slowly mixing out. The rain's coming in. You look out towards the west, and we've been watching this evolve. There's a mid-level trough that's developing in here. Now, this is going to swing south. You're going to really start to see the snow levels pick up, especially out towards western Maryland. And then the question is, does an area of low pressure start to form over northern Virginia right up the coast as we go into the overnight hours? And that's what some of these short-range models are indicating. If we take a look, and again, showing you the lift increasing tonight, lift, of course, is going to allow for the snow or rain showers to enhance across the I-95 stretch. But it looks like right now where the low forms is going to be over northern Virginia, south of Baltimore and D.C. But short-range models, and this is the new 12Z 4-kilometer WRF, it's showing us that there could be some bandings of snow making it as far north as Baltimore City. So, I'm going to keep the snow showers in the forecast. I don't think it's going to be an accumulating situation, but nonetheless, could be some snow overnight hours into Thursday morning's commute. But again, really kind of headlining the further south and west you go, the better likelihood of you running into some snow. There's going to be another band of snow that comes through with a clipper system as we go Thursday night into Friday morning. Also could bring some light snow, and depending on how cold we get, north and west of the Beltway may see a sugar coating of some snow to maybe even an inch, especially as you get towards the highlands and ridge tops out over central and western Maryland. Here's a look at the this is the RPM model showing the cold air punching down, so our thickness is dropping well below 540. And you notice, I mean, this was a real close call. I mean, let's say that the trough was kind of right in here, you would have allowed for the low pressure center kind of to formulate a little bit further towards the coast. The deformation zone would set up a little bit closer to the coast, and we would have had a light to moderate event of some snow. And there's a look at the RPM model, again showing the snows breaking out northern Virginia late tonight. And this model has been trending towards the possibility of some more snow trying to develop along the 95 stretch as you get into Philadelphia. I think the cutoff's going to be in Philadelphia, but south of that, you know, you could be talking about some light snow developing. Then the attention is going to turn towards the cold that's going to develop. If you look up towards northern Canada, I mean, this is some pretty harsh cold that has been bottled up, and now it's going to find that weakness, that trough that's going to develop across the East Coast, and it's going to come pouring down. Pell Bay right now, 33 degrees below zero. That's air temperatures. And Island Lake now at 8 degrees below zero. That's south of Hudson Bay. So that's the cold air we're going to have to keep an eye on over the next 36, 48 hours. And by next week, it's going to be a whole different ball game in terms of temperatures. We're talking 50s earlier this week. Now today we're talking about upper 30s, low 40s. And I'd venture to say by the middle of next week, you could be talking about teens once again a day and single-digit negative digits for overnight lows. And I'll show you some of the European forecast models coming up in a second. It's 7 right now in Minneapolis. Fargo also at 7 degrees. We're still hanging on to 50s from Petersburg to Hatteras. Atlanta is at 45 degrees. So some mild air is still found across the East Coast, but there's only just a short window of those 50s before we kind of see everything push off the coast, and then we get into some cold air. Here's the European ensemble model. When we say ensembles, it's a blend of about 51 different forecast models, and we come up with one particular picture. So look at the deep trough that's developing centered over the Great Lakes into the mid-Atlantic. So you're getting some tremendous cold. And then, of course, look what's going on both sides of the coast. Pacific side and out towards California, huge ridge developing. That's responsible, by the way, of a nasty drought that's developing, and that's causing all sorts of problems for Lake Tahoe and out towards the ski resorts of California, right up towards the Pacific Northwest. I'll talk more about that tonight on ABC News at 5:30. And then if you look out towards the Atlantic, we're starting to see some ridging developing just south of Greenland. So the nice block developing over the western Atlantic. We move this out 7 to 12 days. We still have that trough dug in, 540 thickness line right down towards, right down towards Charlotte and right along the border of Georgia and South Carolina. So this is the cold that's coming right down the East Coast, and 10 to 15 models, 10 to 15 day models still locks in the cold across the East Coast. So this is a pattern that's going to evolve towards the colder side again going into next week. That's when we're going to really start to get into it. If you look at this, and this is not really, you shouldn't take this away as, you should take this really as a kind of a grain of salt. We're not talking about a definite chance of 18 degrees in Baltimore City by Thursday afternoon, but the models are indicating that we could be talking about some teens for the major cities as we go into Thursday afternoon with negative digits well up towards the north and the west. So it's giving us an idea of the type of cold that's coming down as we go into starting this weekend and as we get into next week. Let's take a look and show you the snow projections. This is the European going out towards January 25th. Again, several little nuisance events coming through, and the model's certainly seeing that, putting down 4, 5, 6 inches of snow, total averages through 240 hours. Again, this is not a definite forecast, but it's certainly picking up on these small events going forward into the next, and pay no mind to that slide, but it's picking up on some events as we go into the next several days. So the cold air is coming. The question is when are we going to get that big storm? And I'll tell you, the pattern looks good for something big evolving end of this month going into early February. All right, that's it for now. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon here on my Facebook and on abc2news.com.